Good morning, everybody. Mark Finan here in the home weather office. It is Monday morning. It is now the 18th day of November 2024, and this is the morning briefing. Well, today we still have a lot to talk about. The models are coming into better agreement about where and when we're going to see some rain and snow later on this week. However, just like with the update that I gave you yesterday afternoon, where we're going to see the line of rain develop later on this week continues to shift just a little bit with each model run. And I would expect that to continue over the next couple of days. Yes, it's still an atmospheric river, but with all this talk about this big storm coming to the West Coast and that sort of thing that you may be hearing about in social media, there may be many within this area. And by this area, I mean in the Northern California area, the greater, within a few hundred miles of Sacramento, let's put it that way. There may be some that don't see a drop of rain until Friday. So just keep that in mind, because I can hear it already. We get to Wednesday and people will be hearing about all this hype about a storm, and I'll be seeing comments somewhere that will say, you guys said it was going to rain. For some areas, we're going to get a lot of rain Wednesday. For some areas, we're not going to see any. So let me explain, and let me show you all of that with the graphics. So here's where we are this morning. Had a little wave go by last night, brought some light rain to the west slope. Had a couple of showers here, even at the home weather office. Didn't amount to all that much, and behind it we have clearing, and we're going to have a pretty nice day. You start to see this area out in here, the developing jet stream out in here, and this surge of moisture that we are going to eventually be tapping into and getting our atmospheric river coming our way. And for those of you that missed it yesterday, one of the best depictions of these ARs, atmospheric rivers, is here on the precipitable water, and this is the 6Z GFS. And for a little bit of perspective, because I think if you're watching this on a phone or something like other small screen, it may be tough to figure out. This is California, this is Alaska, those are the Aleutians right in here, and what we look at are these areas of higher concentrations of moisture that are channeled into a relatively narrow line, as you see here. This is Wednesday morning. So that is pointed at Northern California, and quite often when we get into these AR situations, it's described as a fire hose. And yeah, you have an area of a high concentration of moisture being fed along by great atmospheric dynamics as well to concentrate an area of some really good rain for 24, 36, 48 hours. So that's first thing Wednesday morning. This is Wednesday afternoon. You see that moisture still pointed there. This is early Thursday, still pointed there. And this is into the day on Friday. It begins to move just a little bit. So that gives you 48 hours of some really good rain concentrated in one area, which is how you can get some really good rainfall totals. All right, so let's get to the most recent version of the NAM and show you where this rain may be developing. So I fast forwarded here to Wednesday morning at 4 a.m. Won't see any rain today, won't see any rain tomorrow. So in the next 2 days, for those of you that work outside, this won't be an issue. This is first thing on Wednesday morning. You notice where we're seeing rain. We're seeing rain in Lake County. We're seeing rain up on the north coast. We're even seeing snow north of Redding. So if you're driving north on I-5, you will run into some snow on Wednesday. But look at where it is dry. Sacramento's dry, Stockton, nothing in the Tahoe area at this point. That's 4 a.m. on Wednesday. As we go through the day, that area of moisture stays concentrated in those same areas. Generally, and I'm going to just use Interstate 80. So generally speaking, I-80 south stays dry. Areas north of I-80 is where we see the rain. But even there'll be some areas north of I-80 that, if this is exactly true, areas like Grass Valley would also be seeing very, very little in the way of rain. This is 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Still raining in Chico, in Redding. There may be some light rain around Sacramento, but Tahoe is still dry. Stockton, Modesto, Sonora, Groveland, all dry. This is getting into Wednesday night. On Thursday, that line begins to shift a little bit to the north. See, let me go back and forth on that. You can see how it lifts off to the north as the low begins to pivot a little bit farther to the north, lifting the line out. So we'll see a temporary break in the rain for those areas that are seeing it on Thursday before everybody starts to get back into some rain on Friday. So for some areas, a lot of rain on Wednesday. For some areas, no rain Wednesday, and then Thursday provides a little bit of a break. So that's the way the NAM shows it, and this goes all the way through Thursday afternoon. And so with that, let's see how much rain this model depicts. Let me just go right to the end. And as you can see, here's that sharp gradient. There are areas up on the north coast that see 6, 7, 8 inches of rain. As I scroll over that, these areas of blue are more than 7 inches of rain. The areas in red are over 3 inches of rain, and that's what you have up around the Redding area. Chico's around 2.5, but then as you get down towards Sacramento, Sacramento's somewhere around 0 to a trace of rain. And as I mentioned, Stockton, Modesto, Patterson, Sonora are all dry. There may be some light rain in the foothills north of Auburn and certainly into the Feather River Basin. But that's the way the NAM shows it through Thursday afternoon. So that's why I say, we're talking about this big storm. And for some areas, yeah, that's a lot of rain. But for many, you're going to say, you guys made a mountain out of a molehill. This thing isn't panning out at all. All right, so that's the way the NAM shows it. And again, the NAM only goes through Thursday afternoon. So let me show you the way it looks on the 6Z GFS. And for that, we can show you more or less the same sort of a thing, that the line lifts off to the north on Thursday, and then on Friday, it finally swings inland. This is Friday afternoon. A couple of things I want to point out here is that we are going to see some rain for more areas on Friday. And of course, Friday's a big getaway day, last day of school before the Thanksgiving holiday for many. A little bit of snow in the Sierra, but watch what happens. This is Friday afternoon at 4 p.m., but as we go through the next couple of hours, it more or less gets washed out as some warmer air comes in right here. I think the snow levels are going to be staying relatively high until we get into maybe Saturday. Here we go. That's some better snow on Saturday as the colder air finally comes in behind this thing. The line sinks to the south, and then we are dry Saturday night. So that's the way that model depicts it. So if you look at the entire week, we would be dry Monday and Tuesday. Some areas, especially let's say I-80 north, seeing really good rain on Wednesday, while other areas don't see a drop of rain on Wednesday. Thursday, that line lifts to the north, leaving more areas dry. And then Friday's the better chance of rain. Now, I mentioned yesterday that that the other term that is making some headlines is this bomb cyclone, and this is an interesting feature out in here. This rapidly deepening low, and let me show you how that progresses. Oops, let's go one frame at a time. Here we go. So here is the rapidly deepening low, and this is Tuesday midday. Let's see what that looks like on Wednesday. Here we go. So this is early on Wednesday morning. Yes, there is a very deep low out in here. But here's Washington, here's Northern California. The pressure gradient just doesn't get all that tight in Northern California. It certainly does up here. So if you hear somebody talking about, oh, there's a bomb cyclone, well, yeah, there's a deep low that develops out here in the Pacific. But unless you're going to be in a sailboat a couple hundred miles off the coast of Washington, this isn't going to bother you. Yes, even coastal Washington will see some very strong winds, as they often do. But for California, this will have minimal impact. So, yeah, don't get caught up in the hype of hearing about the bomb cyclone. And for that, let me show you the way. Don't do that on me. Let me just fix this. Again, I don't like it when a software upgrade becomes a software downgrade. Thank you, Apple. This is the way the CanSAC depicts the wind on Wednesday afternoon. So that bomb cyclone is going off well off the coast of Washington. And there's some areas here that do have some stronger winds along the crest of the Sierra and the north end of the valley. But it's really just kind of a breezy day in our area. The pressure gradient just never gets tight enough in Northern California for that deep low to have really much in the way of an impact in terms of really strong winds, which is one of those things that you really do are concerned about with a very deep low and the tight pressure gradient you get with a deep low. But again, that'll have almost no impact on California. So if you hear about that, it's much ado about nothing. So Kind of an interesting forecast this week. And as I mentioned, that the Wednesday rain, there'll be areas on the coast, especially from Ukiah up to the north on the Coast Range, I should say, that'll see a lot of rain, and it'll make a lot of headlines. But if you're in Roseville, or if you're in Placerville or Sonora, you can go about your business on Wednesday, and there might be a little bit of rain, but otherwise it's going to be no big deal. So that's the interesting thing, whereas the headlines that you'll hear may be too generalized for your specific forecast. So we've got a lot to keep track of this week, exactly where that line is going to be, but it does look as though the best rain is going to be north of Interstate 80 until we get to the day on Friday. That's everything I've got for you on this Monday morning. Make it a great day. I'll talk with you later.